Okay, we're going to show you today how to plant your tree that you just bought, or any tree that you buy in the future. The correct way to plant, some tips on if you run into bad soil, some methods, some composting methods, using compost and digging the hole larger than the pot, maybe a little bit about how to get it out of the pot, where to place your tree. We're going to cover it all. And we got a young, scrapping young man here called Billy, and he usually plants all of our trees, and over the years I don't think one has ever died. So here we go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to strip the sod. And the sod where we plant in your lawn, you want to strip it out 1.5 to 2 times bigger around than the tree. So mark your pot and then trim the grass, and then we're going to strip the sod out. Yeah, if you got a few spots in your lawn that have need from the dog from the winter, you're going to want, you could use some of that sod to patch those spots. Otherwise, discard it. You don't want to throw the sod back in the hole when you're planting the tree, because then right away you'll get grass growing up around your tree, and then already you got to pull some grass out. So there you got it. Now you want to dig the hole, and kind of as you dig the hole, you want to pay attention to the kind of soil you have. We picked a spot that hopefully will mimic the average 20-year-old home where they sold all of your black dirt, and they gave you an inch of black dirt back, and under the black dirt is hard yellow clay. That's why you want to over dig the hole, because you want to be able to put in some good soil around the tree after you replant it. Sometimes the top 6 inches is good soil. So if you save that first layer that you dig out, keep it on the side, you can mix that with your compost that you're going to put in the hole with when you plant the tree. You can hear Billy hitting hard soil here. That's the common thing that happens in newer subdivisions. They don't want your house to sink. So when they make the subdivision, they sell the topsoil, they pile it all on the side, and then and we might have to edit this. I hear something pretty tough down in the hole there. We picked a spot behind our greenhouse where the construction maybe piled in some old pieces of the barn foundation from the original property. But in a new subdivision, they sold all your topsoil. They pack in the clay to build the roads and to build your house, so your house doesn't sink. But that's not very good for your plants. All right, that took a little work. A piece of concrete from the construction of the garden center. You know, if you're playing the lottery, you couldn't come that close. So anyways, Billy's going to dig the hole about 1.5 times bigger around, but not deeper than the pot, not deeper than the ball of the plant. You want to leave the bottom of your hole hard so the plant does not sink in the future. because if the plant sinks, it will suffocate, it'll get overwatered, it will not live. So if you over dig your hole deeply, you need to put soil back in, and before you put your tree in, you need to jump in the hole and pack it down with the weight of your shoes or with anything. Just pack it back down before you put the tree in. Now, years ago, there used to be a method they talk about. You fill the hole with water, and as a commercial planting unit, we can't do it that way, because I can't fill this hole with water and come back tomorrow and see if the water went away. So if you are digging a hole in your lawn and you dig the hole today, you could fill it with water, and then tomorrow, if the water is gone, the hole is great for planting the tree. Okay, if the water is still in the hole tomorrow when you're doing it yourself, then you have to create some kind of drainage. Otherwise your plant will drown. It'll sit in, because you just dug a hole in clay, and it holds water like a cereal bowl, and it holds water, and your plant will drown. Now Billy's almost there. You see the top of the pot, it looks like it's sticking up a lot, but the actual dirt inside of the pot is almost there. He'll take another inch or so out of the bottom of the hole, and again, wider is better. The more wide, the better, because then the first roots shoot to the side. You don't tend to get too many tap roots from big trees. They kind of exist in the top foot of soil. And if you hit a bunch of gravel and rocks, that's not always a bad thing. Gravel means there's drainage. Drainage is very important. And sometimes the plant will be root bound, and you'll see a lot of, let me focus in on this. This plant is doing really well. It's a young tree in a pot. There is not root bound. It's not wrapped with roots around the edge. If it is wrapped with roots, what you want to do is take your shovel or take a knife and slice those roots 3 or 4 times across the ball, because what that does is then it creates new fibrous roots that will take off straight out instead of continuing to wrap a circle around like it's been growing in the pot. So if you're a little too deep, you could put a little of your nice soil mix on the bottom, but again, make sure you stomp it down. And now Billy sets it in the hole, and you realize, you look at the edge, I'll zoom in on this, you'll realize that that is about level, the edge of the hole and the original dirt in the pot. So you could actually come up an inch. Billy will add a little bit of dirt. You're better off an inch high than an inch low. Now, if you commercially have someone plant a tree in your yard and you know you have terrible soil from previous planting experience, what you might want to mention to your landscaper or wherever you buy your tree that you're going to have them put in is, when they set the tree, you want to create air. And if you have terrible clay, you're going to want to have them put a pipe in. This is just a little 3-inch piece of drain tile, and we put it in. It's not for watering the tree. This is for inspecting how the water is doing in the bottom of the tree. Okay? And if your hole sits full of water, it gives you a way to get a little hand pump and drain the hole, because if your hole sits full of water, it will drown the tree, especially with red maples. So Billy puts it in next to the ball, and anything we install, we put this pipe in if you have heavy clay soil, so your tree can breathe. So do not water your tree through this hole, through this pipe. Now he's going to get some compost and soil and a little bit of the old soil that's, you know, mix it in with the compost and backfill the tree. Mushroom compost, our very favorite. Now you want to use this if you're, as long as you're only doing one tree and you're buying a bag of mushroom compost, you want to take a half a bag of mushroom compost, dump it in, you know, your wheelbarrow, wherever you got your good dirt from the very top of where you started your hole. Throw away that yellow clay. We're going to throw away that rock, of course. And then add some topsoil to it. And then we're going to trim that. We're going to trim off that drain tile so it's not so ugly sticking up. We'll leave it stick up about 4 inches out of the ground, 4 to 6 inches, so after we get the mulch on it still shows. And then maybe 3 months after you've planted your tree, or we planted your tree, and you know it's all settled in, you could take that pipe and cut it off at about 1 inch above ground level so you don't have to look at it. What you want to do, one of your most important things to do when you plant the tree is to put the soil in a little bit at a time around the ball of the tree, and pack the soil down as you fill the hole. Especially if you're way out in the center of your yard and you can't get there with a hose, or you're planting a tree and you can't water it in today, you want to pack the soil in, get the air out of the soil, and that's very important. If you leave air spots, the tree will dry up, the roots will dry up, so make sure you pack the soil in as you build it up. Well, now's the time to make sure your tree is straight. So put a little extra soil on the one side and pull the tree straight, and then stomp it down. So you pull back and then stomp it down. Stomp the dirt down. You might get a windstorm in the next week while the ground is wet and soggy, and it'll make your tree a little crooked. If we're planting the tree and it blows your tree a little crooked and you can't get it straight, call us out, we'll straighten it out. We tend not to use any tree staking. It tends to create a little danger if you have little grandchildren running around a tree. And a lot of times the trees we sell, the ball is a lot smaller, and the wind doesn't blow it over once it's in the ground. Once you get it all packed down around the tree, what you want to do is you want to create a saucer. Okay. So then make a really nice high saucer, you know, 4 inches high, because then it helps hold the water in as you fill inside the saucer, and then the water soaks in down. And that extra dirt that you left for the saucer will settle down in around the tree. And then, I don't know, a couple hours later, after it's all settled in, you can flatten the dirt out a little bit and then put your mulch on. Now Billy, because he's there one time, he'll do the saucer, he'll water, it'll settle, then he'll flatten it, he'll put some mulch down. This saucer method works very well if you're planting way out in the yard and you only want to carry a couple 5-gallon buckets out there to water your tree in the first time. This is the most important watering. This gets the air pockets out. That tree ball was about a 5-gallon bucket, so if you get 5 gallons of water in that hole, this tree probably will be moist, ready to go for at least a couple weeks, especially in a heavy clay soil, and especially because the ball is in the ground and you have mulch on the dirt. The wind isn't going to dry it out. In the past, we've realized that sometimes people love their tree to death. They will water it every day. What you're going to find is that tree is going to stay wet for a long period of time in the ground. So your best method, if you wonder if you should water your tree, is take your finger or take a stick and stick it in the ground next to the tree a week from now, and if it comes up sticky, muddy, sticky, you don't need water. So we found that in years past, some of the trees that died were because people loved them to death. They watered them every day, thinking that they were going to need water every day. So now Billy will take and just flatten out that dirt just a little bit. You don't want to plant the tree deeper than it originally was, so you don't, and you only want about 2 inches of mulch on top of the tree. You don't want to make volcano mulch because it will rot the cambium layer of the tree and create a problem in the future. 2 to 3 inches of mulch, and then pull some of the mulch away from the bark of the tree. Doesn't take much. Make a nice pretty circle. And there you go. All set. Cut off the pipe. I'm not an old landscaper, but an old landscaper thing of mine, pet peeve of mine is driving through subdivisions this time of year, beautiful spring, people are making their yards pretty. They get all done planting and they're so happy, you know, they've made their house look better. They're going to have a beautiful tree in the future, a beautiful plant, new landscape, and what do? They leave the tags on all summer. All summer. Take the tags off, put them in a file, save them in your landscape file, mark them on a plot of survey, what the name of the tree is, and put the tags away. That way you have them if something happens and you want another tree like that and it died or it blew over in a storm. Then you know what it is. So please remove the tags after you plant all your new nursery stock. So now we have a successful tree planting. And that's how we do it at Hawthorn Gardens, and that's why Billy is batting 1,000. He hasn't lost one yet. So don't forget, if you do it this way and you buy those 3 bags of material, or 2 bags, the compost and the mulch and the root starter, you get a 2-year guarantee.